The Adirondack Park contains abundant and diverse wetlands, totaling nearly 920,000 acres within the 6 million acre park. Humans or beavers have impacted and altered many of these wetlands, but unlike the rest of the country, Adirondack wetlands have not been channeled or drained and remain remarkably intact. The Follansbee outlet marsh we see here has been changed by small dams at both ends and construction of a road causeway. The old logging dam at the Racket River was built in the early 1900s to hold logs before their float downstream and was breached soon after logging stopped, reducing further impact. This wetland occasionally floods during peak spring runoff on the Racket River near the breached dam, resulting in water flowing upstream through this outlet marsh and into Follansbee Pond. The low dam at Follansbee Pond and road causeway probably reduced siltation of the marsh downstream. Follansbee Pond is a famous gem of the Adirondacks and site of Ralph Waldo Emerson and Louis Agassiz's 1858 Philosopher's Camp. That several-week-long camping trip to idyllic Follansbee Pond is widely regarded as the beginning of land and water conservation in America. The philosophers' group paddled the Racket River and Follansbee Outlook Brook to reach their campsite on Follansbee Pond after an epic journey by train, stage, wagon, and canoe. A shallow dam of several feet raised the water level in Madawaska Pond, flooding adjacent bogs and several miles of Quebec Brook upstream to the east. The dam was built for unknown reasons in the early 1900s, perhaps to store logs before they're run downstream to a mill, and is a popular site for birding and canoeing in a boreal landscape. Tree presence and height on these shoreline bogs is a function of water depth and water quality beneath the bog mat. The shallower and less acidic the water, the taller the trees. Where you see no trees on the shoreline bogs, there may be too much water depth under the floating bog mat to allow tree roots to reach mineral soil below. Tall trees may indicate grounded portions of the bog, or trees growing on glacial deposits. Peat bogs are generally too acidic and nutrient poor to support most tree growth, although black spruce and tamarack seen here tolerate acidic soils better than most. Water quality and water quantity determine what grows where. A 100 years ago, water levels seen here would have been 2 feet or more lower, and this landscape would have included a smaller stream channel running through a series of bogs and wetlands down to Madawaska Pond. Today it is a series of connected but flooded bogs and wetlands, altered by the downstream dam, but still a wetland. Note the lovely non-peat narrow stream channel connecting peatlands and wetlands upstream to the flooded peatlands of Madawaska Pond below. A railroad bed along the west shore of Madawaska Pond acts like a dam, flooding the now floating bog on the near side and isolating the original bog habitat seen beyond the railroad. This is a good before and after illustration of the effects human or beaver disturbance can have on a wetland. Traveling upstream toward Otter Pond in the Five Ponds Wilderness, an intact beaver dam on the outlet has raised water levels about 18 inches. The increased water level has flooded some wetlands, created new wetlands, and floated shoreline bogs. If the beaver dam fails in future, the pond will return to its pre-dam water level, shoreline bogs will subside, new wetlands will dry out, and wetland character will change for many years until beavers return to start a new 20 to 40-year cycle. This beaver cycle has existed for thousands of years, except during the 1800s, when beaver were trapped nearly to extinction. Sediment deposited by the inlet stream creates a wetland delta, leading to the development of peat and an expanding floating bog mat. Over a very long period, it is possible Otter Pond may be covered with a floating mat. Two old beaver dams on a side channel of Otter Pond indicate beaver have exhausted available aspen, alder, and willow food supply within a short dragging distance and have moved on to a new location. The main dam may suffer the same fate in the near future. The main beaver dam looks old, but intact, and the beaver lodge may still be in use. This forested wetland and bog is impacted by 3 beaver dams in a chain. The first dam floods the middle of the bog where terrain narrows, and the second and third dams control water levels where the wetland ends at the heavily treed outlet. Almost all 920,000 acres of wetlands in the Adirondack Park have been altered to some extent by humans or beavers, but in spite of these disturbances, they remain wetlands and remarkably intact.